They worshiped together at the temple each day, met in homes for the Lord's Supper, and shared their meals with great joy and generosity, all the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. And each day the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. Acts chapter 2, verses 46 through 47. Hey, yesterday, church, we talked about the kind of church, again, not a building, but a body of people, a group of people that God blesses tremendously. And that church, that group of people was going to be one. They were going to be faithful in prayer. They were going to be faithful in witnessing. They were going to be faithful in worship. And they were going to keep Jesus as the center of everything that they do. They were going to be all in on Jesus all the time. Well, in this passage today, I want one other thing that we see about the early church that God would bless them for. It said they shared their meals with what? Great joy. Notice the atmosphere in the early church. Luke doesn't say they were Eeyore believers, like, oh, this is so horrible, what are we going to do, this is love it, or dill pickle Christians. It's not like the Israelites who complained in the desert. It's not criticizing the leadership or anybody else. It just says they shared their meals with great joy. The thing about joy is it's different than happiness. See, happiness is circumstantial. Happiness is a birthday present that you get. Happiness is when an unexpected tax refund comes, or somebody pops in at work to you, see you, and brings you a foo-foo coffee drink, one of those mocha chocolate waters or something like that. But happiness comes and goes, depending on the day and the time and events. Joy depends on Christ. Joy remains even in difficult times. The early church, they're having great joy sharing meals, but they also had difficult times because persecution by the Jews and the Romans was getting ready to ramp up on them. Their following Jesus had cost them relationships, business relationships, family relationships, financial relationships. They had sacrificed even a great deal to be a follower of Jesus, but it still says, they shared with great joy. And you know why? They shared great joy because they knew Jesus. They knew and understood that their sins had been forgiven and death had been defeated because they had seen or talked to eyewitnesses who had seen a risen Lord. They knew absolutely what awaited them, and it was heaven. Nothing they were going through, nothing they were going to go through could take that away from them. In that verse, the NIV translation also says one other thing. It says that they had sincere hearts. The word sincere carries a genuineness, that they were real. There were no pretending there. There were no masks. What you saw with the early church was what you got. They weren't in some kind of a competition to appear to be a super Christian at all. They just simply loved Jesus. Sometimes you meet people who say they're believers and you wonder, man, are they the real deal or not? And then other people you absolutely meet and you just go, wow, that person loves Jesus. And in this day and age, people find authenticity refreshing. There's so many posers on social media. They only show you the good stuff in life, the great things in life, how many good things they got, all that kind of stuff. I find that the ones that attract me the most are when celebrities say, hey, this is the real me. They show you they're no makeup. They show you this is who we are. I love those kind of videos. Real people, genuine people, when you know where they stand, they may not always agree with your beliefs, but they recognize that your faith is genuine. Look, joy is important in church. And that's why yesterday I stopped and made us sing the chorus of Victory in Jesus again. I turned around and saw not a whole lot of joy. I saw people kind of just singing the words, going through the motions. But let me tell you, the second time we sang the chorus there at the end, people started smiling and singing. And then the joy just kind of changed the attitude a little bit. Because you ever notice a joyful person, how quickly they can change the attitude, or how quickly attitude or a vibe in a place can change when the super critical person shows up. Churches should be known for their atmosphere. And then when visitors come to a church, they decide within a few minutes if this is a place that's for them, or if they think it could be. They're not looking for perfection. They don't look for everything to be exactly right, but they are looking for authentic people filled with joy. And that's important because would you agree with me that in this day and age, this morning, our world has enough discouragement? broken relationships, financial issues, health problems, concerns about where in the world we're heading in this country, what's coming down the pike. I hope when people enter MABC, all right, when they enter our church, they encounter people whose hope is centered on Jesus, because that hope can't be taken away. That hope is there for good. Let me give you an example of this. Paul writes, "Rejoice in the Lord always." And we think, wow, that's cool. But do you know where he's writing that from? Paul is writing from prison. He's not writing on a cruise ship. He's not writing at some vacation resort on the beach or at a ski lodge in Colorado. He's writing from jail where he is waiting to be executed. But you see, he has joy because his joy is rooted in Jesus Christ, and he knows where he will be. There's a story of a little girl who was asked why she was like going to church. And she said, because everyone smiles there. Children often notice things that we overlook. See, joy is attractive. A church filled with joyful believers, it's like a light shining in the darkness. That, friends, is the kind of church that God wants to bless. That's what we need to strive to be at Meridian Avenue Baptist Church. Hey, have a great week. Again, be cautious with the heat. It's going to be difficult out there this week. And we want to see you all on Sunday morning, this Sunday, with joyful smiles on your face. Have a great week.